Sure.
Don't get me wrong. So you start accepting that in order to be a part of something or whatever, that there are some kind of consequences. You have to do something, and so that's where it begins, and it begins like
You
it's
know,
nothing.
I remember when I was like 8, in order to be a part of the group, you had to throw rocks at the train and break a window or something, you know.
There you go. And so you did.
And you know, one day I was out there throwing a rock, just many rocks, and I broke the window of the train and everybody started running. And then when the train police came by there, they pointed them to my house. All the kids did.
Uh-huh.
So my point is, where is the real a reality of being with somebody if they're going to turn on you and take your life, or turn on you and do something to you that's horrible? How does that affect a young man or a young woman? Where do they start? I understand what you're saying, but it looks like it just grows and grows and grows and grows.
Right. Well, you know, that there is our biggest challenge, because
Yes.
there are good people out there, and I can tell you a lot with the way hazing goes. Our people that are hazing have actually been hazed themselves. So it's this ritual and this circle that they're led to believe, somehow brainwashed into believing that it's some kind of rite of passage, that going through this process not only brings you closer together, but it makes you stronger. It has this bonding thing, and at some point you break because of the way it begins, because it seems like it's nothing, and you will slowly but surely allow these things to happen. You get to a point where you think, I must allow them to happen, because, you know, I want to get, I'm here and I want to get to this place. And now, as time goes on, you've continued and you've continued, and when you start to realize, really? Is this right? I mean, should I be allowing this? Should this be happening? You're in. You're in a place where you think you can't get out. So you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And now you're so humiliated because you've realized, you know, what you've allowed to happen to you, that you can't share it with your family, you can't share it with your true friends, because it's humiliating. But you think, I'm almost done, I can make a difference. I know Matt was thinking, I can make a difference in the end, and this won't continue. But what I didn't know was that when he stopped sharing what was happening to him, I didn't know that part. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know how serious it was, and I didn't know that it was going to lead to his death. And because I didn't know, I didn't realize what those signs were. I couldn't do anything.
So what would you say to any parent whose child is going through a sorority or any of these college organizations? What would you say to them once the children stop communicating?
That is a wake-up call.
That's the danger zone.
Yes, that is the danger zone. If you have a relationship with your child, and especially if they're going off, you know, anywhere, going to join any kind of an organization or be a part of anything, you know, have this conversation with, this is what it looks like, this is how it starts, it seems like it's nothing. And if you're keeping those lines of communication and they're sharing with you what's going on, and then all of a sudden they start, like Matt with me, I knew everything, I knew every little thing that was going on, and then all of a sudden I saw him, you know, starting to seem sad, and he's like the happiest person, always smiling, always, you know, the life of, you know, lights the room up. And I could see, you know, that like him changing, and I said, Matt, you know, what is going on? And he said, Mom, I'm just tired, I just want it to be over. And so that would be his reply, and I said, okay, and I said, well, what are they doing? He goes, I don't even want to talk about it. And I said, well, Matt, what happens when you're supposed to do this? And he goes, oh no, I'm not going to be doing this. And I thought, gosh, what is it? But because of our relationship was always so strong, I thought, if it's really that bad, if it's so hard that he needs help, I know he will let me know. And he didn't know. So what I say to parents is, when you see that sign, that is a time that you go bypass the child at this point and go right to the school. Go right to the school and start saying, there is definitely a problem because something is going on with my son. He's in this group. Things are going wrong. You need to take a look. And if you're not going to take a look, I'm going to just keep on going until somebody goes into there and finds out what's going on.
So at any point, when you inject yourself into this situation, does that create a fissure rather, between you and your son? Something, do you guys, the parents normally, I should say parents, do the children move away from the parents a little bit to keep this secrecy?
Well, it's not that, he was coming home. I mean, he was continuing, he loved to come home and be with the family, and it was a good 3-hour drive. But he would come home, and some of it, I think, was to just get away from there. But he always just loved being home, with the family. So that part was staying strong, but it was just him not being comfortable enough to share. Part of it's, the sacred vow of the brotherly, sisterly, whatever. And then some of it is, honestly, and I didn't know this stuff until I sat in every single deposition. I went to every court hearing. I've read every single thing. I listened to
How many
every
of these
interview.
kids had to do depositions?
Gosh, I can't even remember. There were a lot. More than those that were charged. There were 7 charged. There were, I don't know.
What is the punishment for this?
Well, before we got Matt's law changed, there really wasn't a punishment at all. It was a slap on the wrist. You picked up garbage on the side, maybe paid a small fine, but your life
And you're
didn't
just
change.
taking somebody's life?
And you just took someone's life. So what we did, before we got Matt's law passed, we actually got the first felony ever in the United States on a hazing, on a flawed law, and then got the law changed. So now in the state of California, it is a felony if you seriously injure someone during a hazing. It's a misdemeanor if you participate in any way during a hazing, or if you are there and you don't do anything to help.
I'm going to throw a number at you, and I know you probably don't know, but you probably have an idea.
I'll do my best.
How many parents do you think really get down to the gist of things and really take as much interest as you did?
That's hard to say because everybody reacts different. Some people, they don't want to deal with it at all. And the thing about grieving or making change or making a difference, it's kind of an individual thing. But I know personally a lot of parents that are out there making a difference, that are working hard because, it's not just about the most important thing about saving the lives of young people, really not wanting to see another family that lives through the devastation that we all live through every day.
Do you realize that when I was doing the research on you, I noticed that every 5 weeks somebody dies from hazing in this country in a college prep school? An average of 1 every 5 weeks. That was one of the things, that's my own compilation from looking at all the death and stuff,
Yeah.
36 kids. 36 kids.
I don't know that they are able to, that number is probably correct,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think that it will show up like that because, getting them to put down that it was actually a hazing, because they like to use accident or, it was a party, that I really struggle with them when they're.
So where is the transparency between this and law enforcement? That's another question I'm going to throw at you.
Well, it depends on where. We were fortunate in Chico, and I will absolutely love Sergeant Keeney for the rest of my life, as well as D.A. Ramsey and all of the Chico Police Department, because, they stepped in, and luckily when the call came in, they were just coming onto duty, and when they got that call, 12 of them went out to the house to gather up those boys that morning that Matt was killed and separate them and find out what happened. And because they did that, there wasn't enough time. I mean, don't kid me, don't get me wrong, they afterwards tried to do as much hiding as they could, but at that moment, when it all came down, they didn't have time to think, they didn't have time to plan, And they were just kind of, most of them brutally honest in those interviews. I have the videos, I have the audios, I have every single interview that was taken, I have all of that in my possession.
So what would you say to a parent who's going through this? Get as much as you can get.
Most of the time when you lose a child, even if it's not to hazing, but if it's something that's just, just came out of nowhere, whether it be a car accident or something like that, you have this natural instinct to know every single thing.
Right.
I thought it was just me. I thought, oh my God, I am like this crazy woman.
Hazing is
I
completely
know
different.
everything. It's completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
It's not like an accident.
No.
It's not like something just happened out of the blue. This is all planned.
Yep. Yep.
And the thing that cracks me up about this whole thing is they seem to not have a sense of life or safety of life.
No, they don't. And I think sometimes it's because they had just been through it and they're thinking, well, we were okay. But they're not remembering when they were in the depths of that, what they were feeling and how horrified they were and how scared they were and how dangerous they knew it was for them at the time. And because that part's gone. It's kind of like when you have a baby and you give birth and it's like, oh my God, it was like the worst thing I ever went through. And then you're pregnant again, you can't remember that until you get into there again and you do it again. So I think, because they're now on this side and not the person that's going through the torture and the humiliation, they are not feeling that again. So they're in a whole different realm of things, and all they're thinking about is it's going to be worse on you than it was on me.
So where does that start and where does it stop in the line of safety and care?
Well, when there's alcohol involved, and
Aha, the medium, alcohol.
if you take alcohol out of the picture, I say, I don't know if the deaths completely stop, but majority of all those acts, they won't push it that far. Alcohol makes you push things that much further, and it doesn't give you a clear head, and it takes away the inhibitions of feeling bad about something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you just get stupid, and you start doing stupid things. So when you have young people that are out on their own for their very first time, they have no curfews. They just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm free. And then you start throwing in ignorance about hazing and where it can lead, and then you add alcohol. That's just like a bomb going to go off.
Wow. You want to tell me about what you do day to day in your organization, AHA, and where you go and how many colleges you've been to, and could you give me an estimation of how many people have responded to you?
First, I would like to say our response is wonderful. I love going into the high schools, into the colleges. I love talking to the kids. I love it when staff is there or parents are there, because it's not just the students that we need to educate. We need to educate everyone. And people don't realize too that hazing happens in the workplace. We all know it happens in the military. But when it happens in places that you just least expect it. And so giving that knowledge to everyone is really important to me. So I love the response that we get. We're not judgmental at all. Our most important thing for us is to educate, is to just help you see, and recognize it from the very beginning, so you don't end up in that situation. And
it's very easy to get there.
It's so easy to get there.
Yeah, very easy.
And so many people have been there and don't even know. And I know when I
Blink
get to
an
the
eye.
high schools,
Especially with alcohol involved.
Yeah, alcohol. Yeah, it's so dangerous.
So I want to ask you something. A lot of college students now smoking marijuana. Is that a factor in all this also?
I don't believe it is, because it doesn't make you violent, and it doesn't make you, it just sort of makes them laid back, and I don't see, I can't be a judge on something like that, but I don't see where that is like alcohol. You don't get the same
But
reaction.
from what I understand, they're mixing the two.
Oh, okay, well.
Which makes it
I'm
even more
definitely
dangerous.
not an expert on any of that.
It even makes it more dangerous.
Yeah, probably could.
I was reading the notes of college kids and people, when I was online. Some of the things they think is just like, oh my God, where did this person? It's like, I think I'm looking for a word, seeing another person morph into another individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
they go from these mundane, real good kids from real good families, and with the advent of alcohol and drugs, you know, and marijuana and stuff like that, they become monsters. There was a saying once that the brakes are taken off psychologically. I think I'll put it like that.
Yeah, you know, just talking about the young men that killed Matt, they were good kids. You know, they got into a bad situation. They were ignorant in a lot of ways, and they made some really bad choices. And a lot of what we like to, when we're trying to empower these young people, is, you know, your choices have consequences.
Sure.
And so you need to...
Decisions have consequences.
Yeah, and you need to start thinking before you do things a lot of times. And when you put the alcohol in there, that takes that thought process out. And it's not an excuse by any means. But what's sad is that we really need to drill this in, you know. Don't be getting super drunk and then doing these kinds of things. If you're going to get super drunk, you know, go someplace safe.
You lose it.
Let's just not
So
get super
I want to
drunk.
ask you, what did some of the kids say about after this was all over with?
Which kids?
Any one of them?
Like the ones that killed Matt, you mean?
Right.
They were very sorry. They felt horrible. I mean, they killed someone. Hopefully they felt horrible, but they did, because I spoke to most of them. I actually went into, there were 7 that were convicted. 4 of them were up on felony charges. 3 of them received felony charges. 2 of them were able to have them reversed. But the one that was found most culpable is still a felon. And I'm very proud of him, because, you know, they allowed me to work with one of the defense attorneys and work out the plea bargain for these young men, because they decided to change their plea after we went through months and months and months of going back and forth to court. It was horrifying.
How is it that they were directly involved?
That they were directly involved?
Right, that they with the plea bargain.
Well, D.A. Ramsey, who will be like my hero for the rest of my life, but he was steadfast. And the way the law was written is that it was in the educational code. It wasn't in the penal code. And so the way it was written is, during a hazing, the groups had to be either a part of the school, so they would have to have been students, right? Or if they were in an organization, it had to be recognized by the school. Well, this organization had lost their charter, and so they were no longer recognized by the school. So now they were a rogue fraternity. It was off campus. And 3 or 4 of the students involved, including the one found most culpable, were not students at all.
Whoa.
So,
Wait a minute.
exactly.
Let's go back here. They were not students at all. They were not in the university in any way.
They'd either taken a break or they had been suspended, but they were not a part of the university at the time.
That makes it even more so dangerous.
So they did not fall under the way the law was written. So that was our biggest battle, is every time we went into court, it was like, yes, do I need to stop? Yes, they we're not saying that what you're saying isn't true, D.A. Ramsey. These things happen. But you cannot hold them accountable because the way the law is written. And that was our battle every time we went in. And this one attorney, who was the best attorney, and he just happened to be the attorney of the one that was found most culpable, every time I saw him, I cried, because I thought, he's so good and I just can't stand him, because it's just not right. You can't kill people. I don't care how the law is written or whether or not you're going to school. You can't kill people and make that okay. So that was our struggle for months and months and months as we went back and forth to court. Yeah, it was very difficult. But these young people realized that D.A. Ramsey said, I don't care the way the law is written. We are moving forward with this, and we will not stop. And we finally got a really good judge that at one point said, well, then maybe we should hold them on torture. Torture, I didn't know what that meant. when I found out later, it was like mandatory 10 or 20 years of life or something. And I was like,
Really?
I didn't want that. I really didn't even want them to go to prison. I wanted them to go to jail. They had to have consequences for what they had done. They had to spend time in jail. I didn't want their lives ruined. I didn't want their lives destroyed. I wanted them to learn something. I wanted them to make a difference. Because what better
Wait a
story
minute,
did
lady.
they have?
Wait a minute, lady. Hang on, honey bun. Hang on. Hang on. Damn it, hang on. You're telling me you got a lot of compassion. There's not that many people like you.
Well, I didn't start out that way. I was very angry in the beginning. Let's step back. In the very beginning, I didn't know what happened. And so I actually was worried about them. And when they came to me sharing their partial parts of the story, I cried with them. I hugged them. I felt terrible for them because I thought, you were down there, you saw your friend die. And then gradually stuff started coming out. And a month from the date that it had happened, I got a call because I was talking to, he was then Detective Keeney at the time, he's now Sergeant Keeney, and we spoke almost every single day. And he called that day and he said they had arrest warrants out for 8, so it started with 8, but they ended up letting them go. And that the next day they were going to have a press conference, and so they needed us to come down, and they wanted us to come early because D.A. Ramsey, which was the first time I met D.A. Ramsey, wanted to share with us what he was going to say during this press conference before, so we heard it before that because they didn't want us to just, because it was horrible. And so we sat in this room and he came in and he shared the horrific details of what had happened to our son the last 3 days of his life.
3 days?
3 days of torture.
He went through this for 3 days?
The third night was the water torture. There were 2 nights before that where they had, it was a horrible end of Matt's life.
We're going to take a break. Whew, boy. This is going to blow my brain away.
To Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
And this is the Chief. We're back with Debbie Smith. And here we are talking about the loss of a child. I get around Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley, East Bay, South Bay, all the Bay areas. And I hear this pain in these parents when they lose a child. We just made the comment. You got to switch your mic back over. There you go. We just made this comment that once the pain starts, it never stops. How do you deal with it?
And for the longest time, I just cried a lot. I cried every day for 3 years. I cried the better part of 4 years. But I went into action immediately. I immediately went into action, as hard as that was, because I knew the importance of what I needed to do. And I needed to do it at that time when people cared. When something like this happens, people care, but slowly it kind of goes away. And so you're kind of, you know what I mean? You don't have all that backing, but we luckily, at least for 2 years, as we were getting, justice for Matt, and then getting Matt's law passed the next year, when we had so much help. It was just amazing. You can't do anything like that without support.
Where do you tell parents to start when something like this happens? Where did you start? Really looking and digging in. And you said that, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this lady. I'm saying, wow, must be one hell of a woman. That you was hugging some of them, and you was going through with some of them, and there's a lot of pain there. How did you get through that? How did you get there to the point where you were actually not supporting these guys, but actually going through it with them and their grief also? How did you get there?
Well, it was a process, and I learned to, and I'm not somebody that ever wrote in a diary or anything like that, but I started a journal that I wrote in because I needed to pour everything out of me because there was just too much pain. And and every feeling I was feeling. And so in the beginning, when I was worried about them, and then go to the place of, oh my God, you guys tortured and murdered my son. Hello, that's not cool. And then feeling like the hatred and the anger and there have to be consequences, they need to go to jail. I never once though thought they needed to go to prison. I never went there because in the back of my mind I knew that it wasn't intentional, but it didn't matter that it wasn't intentional. What mattered was they were the ones that were responsible. So if you don't have consequences, when do you learn anything? And because there had never been consequences, people kept thinking it was okay to do. We can take this chance. We can, not call 911. We can not do that because even if it does go wrong, we're going to be okay. So that couldn't be so any longer. There had to be consequences. There had to be jail time. And as I went through the process of going in court and slowly but surely, reconciling in my head that, they didn't mean to kill him. They didn't mean to kill him. They didn't mean to kill him. They did mean to torture him. They meant to humiliate him. They meant to make his life miserable. But I can't hate them for being stupid and not knowing any better because it happened to them. So, you have, it took me, I kept thinking it was 6 months, and I was calculating, and it was more like 7.5 months where I really thought, you know what, I have to just let it go. I have to be able to just let it go and find the good, what can come from this, right? Their story is huge. Their story's bigger than mine. I mean, they are living with the fact that they killed someone that they liked and cared about, and in this stupid way, and now every day they wake up to the fact that they did that. And
so, have you listened to them and their pain?
Yes, I actually went to the jail. D.A. Ramsey, again, my hero, he allowed me to, we had, the 4 were on October 28th, and then the last 3, well, one had gone ahead of time, so the last 2 were going to court the day before Thanksgiving. And they were going in the afternoon, so I was going to be going back to court. So the jail is right there all by the court and all that. And so I went to D.A. Ramsey's office, and he had his detective take me over to the jail. And I went in and I sat in the little chairs where you get on the phone and you have the glass. So one by one, I spoke to the 4 that were in. And and 3 of them I had met, but the one that was found most culpable, I had not met, because by the time he'd come around, I was exhausted, and I couldn't meet another person because my pain was, I was just too exhausted I didn't have any more to give. So I never met him in the beginning. This was the first time I was going to have a conversation with him. And so I went through and I spoke to each one of them, and I thought I knew some stuff about what had happened, and I needed confirmation. And I also wanted each of them to tell me a story about Matt, because that is very important when you've lost your child, to hear as many stories that you've never heard or see any picture that you've never seen. And so that is what I did with each one of them, and I spoke with each of them, and I asked them, part of the plea bargain was that they needed to do anti-hazing work. And anytime I requested, if someone came to me or someone went to D.A. Ramsey, he would let me know, or I would let him know, that I want them to work on this with this person. I want them to be in this documentary. I want them to do this. And so they had to be a part of all that. And they were willing and able, and they were awesome about it. And so I said, and I want to stay in communications. And I want
So what was the stiffest sentence in that whole thing?
A year in jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have a permanent record of permanent felony.
Yes. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that wouldn't like to hear this, but I would not have a problem if they dropped the felony charge at this time on the young man that's got the felony charge. I would not, and I would hope that he could go on with his life. He helped with a lot of stuff, and we, in 2008, Matt was killed in 2005. In 2008, we did something together for my youngest son's high school. They have the Every 15 Minutes program. It's a reenactment of a drunk driver, and it's a huge 2-day event that they do. And he and I went together and spoke to some of the young people there, the seniors and juniors that were in this room.
So where is this person now?
He lives probably about 20 minutes from me, but I haven't seen him since that that event that we did together. But I am working with another young man that was Jerry Lim, who was found, he had a felony. He was one of the two young men that had felonies that could be reversed. And so his has now been reversed since, he got out of jail. And he's been doing a lot. He continues to do documentaries. We were just in San Marcos University in Southern California this past weekend for an event there. So he has stayed with it and really continues to do, things to make a difference.
Let's talk about the impact on your family, okay? Can I do that?
Sure.
How did you got other kids?
I have Matt's younger brother, Travis.
How did this affect him?
Devastating. He was my biggest worry and probably the reason I'm still here because, losing a child, it is so hard. And, I look at Travis and was like, I cannot leave this earth and leave this child who has lost his brother, his hero. So, he gave me strength to go on, and my biggest worry was, how is he going to go on? Because Matt was bro. He had taught him how to ride his bike, how to rollerblade. He would read to him. They were 7 years apart. He taught him how to read. He would read to him at night. Travis would crawl in his bed every single night, and it was just that was my biggest worry was, making sure that he was okay, and his devastation. It was horrible.
How does the state look at all this? The judiciary, and they try these people. How do they look at all this?
It is really, really hard.
It's deepening in a way. I understand that. It's very difficult in the fact that they're looking at their emotion and they're looking at these children who now are felons. So how does the state put all this in perspective?
Well, luckily with Matt's law, it makes it easier because they don't, from what I understand, one of my lawyers wrote the law. I thought it was great, but I don't really know law, but I thought it was a wonderful law. But then I heard from other people from other states that have read our law, and that apparently it's one of the best hazing laws out there. But it's still, once it gets to court, it's still the judge, that determines where it's going to go. And a lot of times they just don't want to. And that's where our problem lies, is that if you're going to continue to not hold these kids accountable, it's not that bad to go to jail for 6 months or a year.
Isn't accountability a big thing in this? What's an accountability in trying to look at the severity of it?
Yes.
How did that all come out?
For these young men?
Yeah.
They all spent some amount of time in jail. The longest was a year. There were 2 for 6 months. There was 1 for 90 days, 2 for 45, and 1 for 30 days. Depending on the part they played and what happened.
So did they ever tell you about the emotional marks on their heart and their minds?
Yes, actually. Dan Ramsey, he allowed me to go in, and it was about a year after it had happened, because the whole process, they didn't even go to jail until like 8 or 9 months afterwards. So 3 of them were still in jail at the time, and he allowed me to go in with a videographer and interview them. So he brought them over in their orange outfits, and they were shackled, and they were brought through, and each sat down separately.
That's humiliation.
That's humiliation. And those were my questions. What is your life like now? What is the difference? And they would talk about how they always had to walk against the wall. They would give anything to have, be able to write with a ballpoint pen. Certain things that a real fork. They just got plastic. They're just, how the different ways they were treated, and how you were never had any kind of, peace. You were never alone. You were never. It was just a whole new world for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all these guys right now, do any of them contact you and say hello to you?
The only one I'm in contact
You're
at this
listening
time
to
with
Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
And we're back again. Miss Debbie Harris. What an interview. Whew, damn. Kind of makes you feel like when something happens to one of your children, where do you start and where do you stop? Or if you ever stop. And I'm looking at this lady, and she's talking about this stuff. And I'm going to say something to everybody out there who's lost a child. I understand what she's saying. I hope I never see that. But at the same time, I just want to tell all the mothers, the fathers, the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents, especially in Oakland, San Francisco area, that losing a child is very harrowing, and I understand that. And I also got to say to you that you people are some hell of some people to get out there and move on in life. I don't know how it happened. We're going to bring a husband in here for a quick view on things, and we're going to get his comments, and I'm going to try to keep it together. So what is your formula to getting through the day and the success of getting through that day, even this is something of a minuscule thing that you have in the end?
I think I was married to Debbie, because Debbie got us through it. She really did. As bad as she was, she got us through it. Who knows what would happen if I didn't have Debbie. She was a rock. Yeah, she didn't feel like a rock. She didn't act like a rock, but she was. She kept me and our other son, Travis, grounded.
Very important.
Yeah, it is.
27 years. You know what? To me, talking to people who go through it.
Oh, yes. I always talk to parents or anyone. You know, the only person that knows how you feel is somebody that's been there.
Yeah.
Because I remember way before I lost a child, and I just remember when you'd see a show or see somebody or know somebody that lost a child, the first instinct was, I can't even imagine losing a child. And when we lost Matt, instantly I realized why you can't imagine, because it's so horrific. I mean, it's so horrible, the feeling that you feel, that you can't go there. And I think God will not let you go there unless you are actually there, because there's no explaining it. You cannot explain that pain. I've lost many people, and my mother was one of them, and that was the hardest thing, I thought. And this was 100 times worse. It's just, you just can't explain it. You can't imagine. And so unless you have been through it, you just can't imagine what it's like.
What are the little things that you remember when he was growing up?
Oh man, there's so many. I'll tell you one of the greatest Father's Day gifts I ever got. It was about the age. How old was he? 12. Yeah, about the age when kids. It's not cool to be out playing with their dad, because I'd always go out and play with all the neighborhood kids, football, basketball, you name it. And so he wasn't playing with me that much anymore. So he made me a bunch of business cards that said, Dad, this allows you to tell me what you want me to do. And anytime you present this card, and no matter what I'm doing, homework or anything, I have to stop and do what you want to do. And it's still the greatest Father's Day gift I ever got.
That's a memory that you'll never forget.
Oh, I've got it framed. The first one. I think I used the rest of them.
What was your formula for bringing up such a human being like that, if you don't mind me asking?
I think one thing was really special is we went on a lot of trips together, camping. Whenever the kids had free time, we went to a lake, a river, an ocean, and spent time together with them, teaching them about, whether it be fishing or how to build a fire or how to cook the fish you get. Just a lot of family time like that.
If you spend time with your kids, because we're all so busy. We're just all so busy, and a lot of times you lose track. But if you're not spending time with them, they're going to find other things to do. And a lot of times it might be getting into some kind of trouble, this or that or whatever. Not meaning to, but things happen. But when you can spend time together as a family, if you can make that happen and really find the importance of that, your kids are going to be pretty great.
You know, one of the biggest things that I ask parents here in the inner city when they lose a child, what is their biggest regret? They said that they didn't do more and they didn't spend more time. So you guys are right
We don't
on
have
the
that
button.
regret.
We don't have that.
We have so many memories, and you know, I'm really big about gratitude, and I thank God every day for our memories. I thank God every day that I can go to our photo albums, and I can go, you know, back in the day when we had photo albums, and and still, and you know, phones, and because really Matt was killed kind of on that cusp of when they were coming out with cameras that took pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, phones that took pictures. So we were still big on the, I just found a roll not too long ago of film that had his 12th, speaking of 12th, his 12th birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
And I took it and was like, I think this is going to be pretty precious. And in tears, I'm like, what is it? So yeah, so we were really, really fortunate that we spent so much time and have so many amazing memories. And I try to tell people, you know, make memories. Because at some point in your life, that's all you're going to have.
It sounds like this is the thing that helped you get through was the good times. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That catalyst that propel you from
Yeah.
12 o'clock noon till 1 p.m. in the afternoon, so to speak.
It's true.
Yes.
As much as she could be crying or at any given moment, just because something comes to you, we can counteract that with, yeah, but remember when he did this? You know, he was give me some psychiatry
You
work.
said you cried for 4 years.
Oh, she did.
I cried every single day for 3 years,
She did.
and Travis was so adorable, especially the first year. He'd like, did you cry today? And I said yes, Travis, I did. I didn't want to lie to him, but I didn't want to be too emotional in front of him either. So I always tried to, you know, be as upbeat as I could, but I didn't want him to think not realize that I was in pain. So it's like, it's so hard because you're so worried about them that you don't want to be overly emotional in front of them so that they worry about you.
Good.
But you're a total and complete wreck. So you're battling this every single day, and so every day he would say, "Did you cry today?" And I said, "I did, Travis." I said, "I did. I may cry every day for the rest of my life." At that point in time, I thought I would. I said, "But I'm okay. You know, I'm okay." But what I found was he was really worried about me. He was 14. He just turned 14, and so he started kind of withdrawing in areas because he didn't feel like he could allow himself to be too emotional because he was worried about how emotional I was. And I'm trying not to be too emotional in front of him because I want him to be okay. And so then I'm starting to realize, you know, what do I need to do, you know, to make this okay for all of us? And you try to put on this happy face and smile
Happy
and laugh.
faces are hard to smile.
And then,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
go out, and I realized as time goes by, you know, you're putting on this happy, life continues for everyone around you. So you can't be the downer that's, you know, when you don't want
Right.
people feeling sorry for you or worrying about you. And so you're like, I'm going to put on, makeup, of course, that didn't work because you're crying every day, so it didn't matter. The appearance wasn't that important, but the fake smile and the fake laugh was really important. So to go out, you know, just that I'm okay. You know,
Right.
don't worry about me.
Right.
But then when you're not in the thing, you're so not okay. You're
Right.
just a broken little shell of nothing, and you're wondering, how do I get to the next day?
Great.
And what parents need to know.
How did you start to pick yourself up? Because I'm listening to you talking about this, and I'm seeing that it was pretty hard for you sometimes to actually pick up the day. Am I right?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult. You know, one thing, in the last 12 years, when either one of us were crying or we walked in on the other one crying, we didn't have to ask what it was.
Yeah.
We knew they had a Matt moment. It was worthy of
A Matt moment.
Yeah, it was worthy of a hug, and then we usually end up talking about something that was really precious about it. But I struggle. You know, you don't want to be the one out there crying, being the man of the house. And I struggle a lot of times. Like I said earlier, it barely gets a little better every day, and I just keep with that thought. Plus, I still have my beautiful wife and our awesome younger
Damn
son.
sure.
And life is still good. You know, we got dealt a pretty rough hand there, and we're still going to make it through.
You know what? To all the parents that are listening to this, I say to them, the most premium thing you could do is spend some time with your children. And you know what? My mom died at 32. And she's real pretty, super gorgeous looking woman. And are we out? And every day she'd tell us that she loved us. Parents don't do that anymore. Do you think that is a major thing in formulating and bringing a child up?
Yes, definitely. To this day, with our younger one that's 26, I tell him I love him no matter if he's in front of his friends at his business he just bought or his softball team or anything. I love you, Travis. You know, every time. Absolutely.
He always says, I love you too.
Even when he beat me golfing on my birthday last weekend, which is 1 of 3 times, still I love you, son.
Catalyst in life. Builds healthy-minded people. Love.
Yes, true.
So how is Travis doing now?
He's doing good, I think. He just recently got into his dream job, which is anything to do with baseball, and him and a friend of his on a baseball team that he was on bought Payless batting cages, a little plug for him in Concord, and he's just happy as can be. You know, I mean, sure things could be better, and the past could have been a little better, but considering he's a happy young man. We're both very proud of him.
We're going back to the same thing. You know, we're talking about love and devotion and closeness, and we adding little elements as we talk about this. You know, you guys feel pretty good about your success in life, don't you?
Well, as far as love and family, yes.
Right.
Very
You know.
fortunate. We've had our boys.
I thought I could make many more millions, but I'm not talking about that. But as far as love and the family, yeah. I won the lottery the day I met this woman, and I knew it. And the sons that she gave me they were awesome.
That is so cool. Can I ask you a question? What kind of pickup truck you drive?
Well, I had a Ford recently, but now I'm in a Chevy Tahoe. I'm not in a pickup.
I asked you that just to break the ice and things. You know, you look like you're very rounded. I mean, this is why I was compelled to bring you in here. Because I'm looking at the fact that you guys are actually talking to people out here. This thing is going all over the whole country right now. And there's a podcast that goes out, and God, this goes everywhere. And we have people from Canada, Britain, we have people all over the world get back to us, you know, about our shows. And I wanted to get the both of you in here, and I'm going to ask you this. If you wanted to tell people that have lost a child where to start, you know, what would you say to them?
You know, I would say, don't feel bad if you feel the need to cry wherever you are. Don't think, I know my biggest thing was, is this normal? What's normal is whatever gets you through the day. What gets you from this day to the next day, because when you lose a child, just waking up is painful. Just moving around the house, a thought in your brain, a breath, breathing is hard. You know, every day is a challenge, and to get to that next day, you need to do whatever you can do. I know what was important to me was immediately, I wrote down everything I could remember about Matt, because I didn't want someday to forget, because, you know, you make new memories. And so, but you remember the old stuff, usually, but some things you forget, but you get to continue to make new memories. But when you can't make any new memories, you definitely do not want to forget the ones you have. So write down everything you remember, and have others write about them too. And then, you know, keep your pictures up. Don't think you have to put them away because it's going to make it less painful, because it isn't. They had a life, and they're still going to be alive in you forever. So don't think that you have to. Somebody told me, why do you have all these pictures out? That just makes it sadder. And it's like, get out of my house. I did not say that, but I wanted to. I was like, what? Don't tell me how to grieve my son.
You guys look at pictures together sometime?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they're still all over the house.
Family movies.
Yeah.
It was big on that the VCR. We had the little
Yeah.
recorder.
Yeah.
We filmed all of our camping trips and stuff. There's a picture in the dining room, me on my hands and knees, and Matt on me, and Travis on him, and it's an awesome picture. And anytime I feel down a little bit, I look at that. There's a couple of photos like that. Just horsing around and being together.
We're going to talk about friends and
You're
relations. How did
listening
it
to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
Hey, we're back again with the Smith family. I'm going to say the Smith family, and Craig and Debbie. And I want to ask you something, Craig. What do you do on a daily basis when people ask you about things? I know somebody asks you all the time about what happened.
What do I do on a daily basis?
Yeah, what do you tell people when they do ask you, on a daily basis? What do they do? What do you tell people? Because you know what, people are going through crisis right now.
Yeah.
And you guys seem to just, not just talking about the death of your son, but you guys seem to be able to adapt very well, which is not a quality that you see in everybody.
True. Even most marriages will not stay together after the death of a child.
That's true.
think,
I saw that
it's
in
a very high
notes.
percentage that get divorced sooner or later. We were bound and determined to stay together.
Uh-huh.
And stay together with, Travis, our younger son, and not let that happen, no matter what. As bad as things get sometimes, we could always understand if there's something to get past there.
Right.
And usually a couple of good hugs and a kiss will take care of it. And sometimes it's a long walk and holding hands, just to get through it. But as far as the people that get through that every day, Debbie's the one for that one. I don't have an answer for that. If somebody came up right now and told me they lost their son, I would be speechless and probably just hug them.
Oh, you and I are in the same boat, huh?
No, I'm not in the same boat as Debbie. She really helped keep everybody calm and together and get through this. But it's tough. I worked with a man in construction that had lost his son, and I found out about it probably about 5 years before what happened to Matt. And I remember him not wanting to talk about it at all, and being almost upset about it, still. Upset to the point where he was angry talking to me about it. And so I always never touched the subject again and didn't understand why he couldn't talk about it. Well, when it happened to me, I didn't want to talk about it to anybody. In fact, at the funeral, I remember seeing people that we didn't see that often, and I kind of ran and hid in the limo until they came and got me out. So it's tough to want to talk about it, but he was removed about 10 years from his situation, and we're 12 years now. And if somebody asks me about Matt or what happened, which has recently happened to me at work, I'll tell them the story. I'll tell anybody the story.
You're a very strong person. This is why people gravitate to you. I have that feeling that people come to you just to talk to you. Am I right?
Well, I don't have any problem talking. I like to socialize. I do.
Another element in the totem pole of surviving on a day.
True.
People don't normally communicate, and they don't normally get out there and talk about things. I see people, one particular person, he's been a heavy drinker since his son died. His son actually died, an illness, a disease, and he just, and I see him all the time, and we were in Vietnam together, show you how far we go back, 1962, 64, 67.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just broke him up, but you have to go on, am I right?
Yes, you do.
Life does not stop. The pain is there, you understand that.
It's true. Alcohol is very easy to fall into that. I remember from the instant we got to Chico, wanting to find a bottle and drink it, and started drinking right then. And drank way too much. But I got past that. Thankfully, I saw it was not leading anywhere, and looking around me at everybody, this isn't just drinking socially, this is every day, this is bad.
Trying to kill the pain that never goes away. The pain is still there.
So I quit it. I just quit. I quit drinking. I'll drink once in a while now, but I completely quit drinking after a while there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Debbie, how do you tell people when they come to you when you do these things with the AHA? I know you get a lot of questions. What's the most prevalent question you get?
Most people want to know what happened. People like details. People, I don't have a problem sharing that story. I learned really early on because I knew the direction I wanted to go into. I knew we had to make a difference. So at some point I was going to have to be strong enough to be able to do that. But what I realized is that the media was going to be our best course, because we knew we wanted to get a law passed, and we knew we needed them on our side trying to get justice for Matt. So the only way the media is going to help you is if you talk to him.
Right.
So I had to learn to be able to, wipe the tears away and try to have a conversation, long enough to get what I needed to be said out. And if I had to break down while I was doing it, I had to break down while I was doing it. It just didn't matter. But that kind of led me to being able to just share. I can talk about Matt, his story, anything. Sometimes I'll cry. I did a podcast with the New York Times, and sometimes I'm fine, and other times you just don't know what's going to happen. And I started sharing, how I learned about it and what happened. The next thing I know, I'm crying hysterically on this phone, thinking, and I'm trying to apologize. I can't even speak because I'm just
I'm not
so
laughing.
hysterical. And I thought, gosh, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you just kind of powered through to get to the other side, and then. But that's why I keep telling parents, if you have to cry, cry. Don't hold it in, let it out. I wrote in a journal almost every single day for 4 years. Or just, just out. Whatever. Sometimes it would be turning into a love letter to Matt, and it was just whatever. But just pour out. If you can get into a group, get into a group. If you need to get counseling, if you need to take antidepressants, don't think that whatever you do is wrong. You do whatever it takes. Find somebody to talk to. Friends and family you need your friends and family. And they want to be there for you. And they're hurting too. But recognize that they're hurting too.
Friends and family is critical, am I right?
Oh,
Yes. We would not be here without friends and family.
Yeah.
Everybody gives you strength, and you have to let them give you strength. You can't be that person that thinks you can do it on your own, because believe me, you can't.
Well, tell me, do you have AHA? Is
Yes.
there, if somebody wanted to contact you, is there any way to do that?
Yeah, you can go to our website,
There you go.
which is ahamovement.com. So it's AHAMOVEMENT. I mean, not .com. Well, .com will take you there. .org. And then you can email me directly, and that is Debbie, DEBBIE, MM for Matt's mom, at ahamovement.org. Or you can, my phone number's on everything, so you can call me. I don't know if you want me to give my phone number out, but I can.
Sure.
It's 209-470-7116. If anyone has any questions, concerns, just wants to chat, wants me to chat with their children, wants me to come and speak somewhere, please feel free to contact me, because the most important thing to me and to AHA is that we educate and bring awareness and save, as many of our young people as we can.
AHA. You started this in 2006.
2015,
Oh, 2015.
on the
Oh,
10-year anniversary of when Matt was killed in Chico,
Alright.
where he was killed.
2015.
Yes.
And since then, how many people do you think you've been in front of, and how many people you've spread your word to? Thousands.
Yeah.
You've been up from 35, 40,000 in San Marcos twice.
How many?
No, not
17,000,
No,
or
no,
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 600,
no.
600, so it would be about 1,500 people in the 2 times she'd been there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's just the one school. She talks to many schools.
I try to get
Yeah,
in.
right.
And, yes, and if people have connections, I'm working right now trying to get into Monte Vista and one in Alamo. And so if you have
That's gonna be
connections.
hard.
I'm hoping not. I'll find out if I should be hearing from them today, one way or another. But I think when you can get them to realize the importance, especially being in the high schools and hopefully soon we'll be getting into the middle schools, because those eyes need to be opened. And I know when I've gone into classrooms, by the end of the presentation, I have young kids that are like, I didn't even know I was being hazed. So, yeah, so it's really huge because like we talked in the very beginning, if they're accepting it then, they're going to keep accepting it, and
Sure.
it's only going to get worse.
Sure.
So when they can realize, oh my gosh, is that what that was? Now they're empowered.
You know, I've got a great story about how many people Debbie has reached. I was working with a company, and a lady in our office told me that her daughter came home from high school, which just happened to be the same high school I went to in South San Francisco, El Camino High School, and they had learned all about Matt's story in one of their home classes, and was telling her about my son and the whole story, and that was just unreal to me. I'm working in San Francisco.
Wow.
Somebody that's got a daughter going to South San Francisco told her the story about my son, and it was a lesson learned before she left high school. So you don't know how many people, you know, somebody said once, how do you know you're doing any good? Well, you don't. She doesn't, but there's so many people that you don't know that have maybe been put in that situation and heard her story and said, no, I don't care about the peer pressure. No, I'm going to do what I know is right. And we don't know about those numbers. There's no way of telling.
But you know, how many colleges have you been to about?
I haven't been to very many yet.
Uh-huh.
So I'm still, we're still new and we're working on getting there, but our doors are opening, which is nice.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what? You're looking at the fact that between 2000, this thing happened in 2006.
It happened in 2005, February 2nd, 2005.
Wow.
2006 is when we got Matt's Law passed.
So how much effort did that take?
Oh, that's a lot of work.
You know what?
People don't realize
Whew.
Really,
what it takes to get a law passed. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
really.
The stacks of paper handed out to all the people in the committee meetings, and every week there's another committee vote. She did a great job on what was that, on a website thing you made, or where you showed each committee and the vote? And she kind of goes through it with a song playing.
Well, I would send out an email whenever we were going to another committee. So what you have to go, you know, I don't know if you know how you get a law passed, but it has to be written by somebody, and then it has to be sponsored by someone, either assemblyperson or a senator, and then they have
Who
to
did you
take
get to
it.
sponsor yours?
Senator Torlakson.
Oh,
So yeah.
really?
So that process, it was written in June. We started looking because we wanted to get through the criminal case. So we were getting near the end of the criminal case, and we started looking in September. And we didn't get him to commit until January of 2006. So this was taking place in
Wow.
2005. And so I, as soon as we got done with the criminal case, and that was Thanksgiving, I'd already put together a MAC committee, which was friends and family, and we met right after Thanksgiving in December, and it was like our first meeting. This is what we need to do.
The Red
and
Army.
yeah, well, that's
So
started
we're the Red Army.
So we started just gathering information and trying to get someone to sponsor, but we needed to know, once we got somebody to sponsor, where do we go from here? So we were gathering all information, we were getting supporters. Because at the time when we were going through the criminal case anyway, I had people that were supporting us, so I was sending out emails letting them know what was going on in the criminal case, because people couldn't go 3 hours or 2.5 hours to court with us all the time.
Right.
And there were so many people back home and so many people in Chico that wanted to know what was going on. So I already had this going on with emails, which back then, believe me, was not easy because it was AOL and you could only send a handful out at a time.
Right.
So you had to do several, and then you had to have everybody just do their people. But so we had a website put together for Matt that a friend of my sister's put together for us. And we started once we got Torlakson to do it for us, we started writing the letters, and we'd have like 3 different letters on there. And then I would send emails as to what was going on next. So we're going to go here, we're going to be in front of this committee, it's going to be on this day. Wear your red, we'll have MAT badges. But until then, start writing your letters, and these are the senators that are sitting on this committee, so write to the senators. And then we'd go the day before, went to committee, and a whole bunch of us would go, and some would take all the floors and hand out flyers, and then a handful of us would go in and speak to committee members about, why we were there and how important it was. And then the next day we'd be there at the committee meeting.
So this is over how long of a period of time?
Well, we got January he sponsored. April we had our first committee meeting. We went through 6 committees, and then it goes through 3, then it went to the floor, then it went to assembly, went through 3, went to the floor, then went back to the Senate floor, then came back and then went to Arnold's desk in September, and it was signed on September 29th, 2006, and then
It's a
January
long,
1st.
yeah, damn right, it's a long,
Yeah.
a tedious road.
And every time we went up there, there had to be 10 to, I think the most was maybe 20s, in the 20s, people show up, and all in red, with our map badges on. So they made a statement looking at us, in those rooms. I mean, you couldn't, the one lady, a couple people mentioned it, but that one lady cracked me up, said, I guess Matt's being represented here today. The whole room, in fact, it was red.
Wow.
And so, that was her Red Army.
You're listening to Thoughts of a Common Man
Oh, okay.
with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
And we're back again right here with Craig and Debbie Smith. And this has been one hell of an interview. And I want to say, in light of all that's going on and all the pressure of life from every damn angle, so you know which way, up, down, around, here are 2 people that have just gone through hell and high water, and they're still together. This is one of the things we talk about: support, love, compassion, passion. This is something we talk about every day on here. And people say to me, I love such and such, such and such. I said, well, when the last time you did something for her? I asked her, when the last time you did something for him? Well, it all is part of the catalyst of life. Craig and Debbie Smith are 2 of the most prevalent people we've had. This is the first real couple we've had this year. You guys are number 1.
Oh,
Awesome.
yay.
Yeah. And to talk about your son's passing and everything, and the pain and all that you've gone through, we're going to try to get this out to a lot of people today.
Great.
And you have the freedom of publishing whatever you want to do and doing whatever you want to do on the internet, wherever you want to put it. Okay, and that way it makes me feel good. You are quite a businesswoman. 501c3.
Yeah,
You wrangled that one?
I did.
Oh,
That was
Lord.
really, really hard.
Oh, Lord.
Ooh, that was a tough one.
Looking. That is
Yeah, I don't wanna do
quite
that
a
again.
feather in your cap.
Yeah, it was really hard. I just remember sleepless nights for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how many people apply for that and never get it?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard.
Wow.
I was very laser focused on every little detail because I kept saying, they always send it back, so I thought, I want to leave as little possible so that when they send it back, it's not that big of a deal. And luckily,
Wow. So you're going to get out there and you're going to continue talking to people.
yes. It's
That's
my
a good
mission
thing.
in life.
You're an angel of mercy, I'm going to tell you that.
Thank you.
Greg, I'm so proud that you're a real man. You know how many real men we want to run into? Ain't that many.
Thank you.
Man, looking like men, but as far as one of the things is we always push here as family. And you guys, we appreciate you coming. And I want to ask the both of you again one more time, if you want to pass something along to people who lost a child, what would you pass to a total stranger that you never would see?
I would say that is the dark place that you're in now, you're not going to be there forever. I had a gentleman write to me one time and he said, will I ever smile again? Will I ever laugh again? Will I ever be able to sit on a park bench and see other people's children play and not feel sorry for myself and not ache? And I said, one day you will. It won't be today. And I don't know how long it'll be because everybody, it takes a different amount of time for different people. For me, it took a really, really long time. but one day you will be okay.
Craig, to all the fathers out there,
Uh,
and men, and single, and married fathers, guys who just get out there and grind it to raise their kids, what would you say?
You know, I had a couple of people that I worked with tell me when they had heard what happened. It had been a while since I went back to work, but when I did, they'd say, "Oh man, I'd take those kids out hunting and they'd never come back," and stuff like that. And I said, you know, where would your wife and other son or other children be if you did that? All out of hate, end up in jail. It's worthless. So my thing to them was, I'm going to be here for my family. That's the number one thing. And hug what's left of your family every day. Every single day is precious. Don't forget the rest of it. Don't get sunk into that bottle of alcohol. Don't go off on your own tangent. Stay with your family.
Anger is one thing that destroys all of us.
Yeah, it's not good.
Anger right now is destroying our whole country.
Yes,
You know,
true.
anger is destroying us. What would you say to the people who just lost somebody in Las Vegas? What would you say to them? I know that's a curveball.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would stick to what I just told you. Is that they have to stick with the rest of their family, and it's just so senseless what happened in Vegas. But as far as if you lost a child, a sibling, or your better half, as they put it, that terrible thing that happened in Vegas. You're gonna need some family to stick by you. You're gonna have to stick with your family. You can stick with your best friends and your friends that show up. That's always good. But when it comes down to it, and it's the middle of the night, and you're crying, you've got your family there.
You cried too, didn't you?
Oh, you're dang right, I did. Oh yeah, quite a bit.
And I just see all of this as just being, this is Gina, the producer, by the way, as being a reminder that life is precious. Keep your loved ones close. The
Yeah.
family feuds and all this crazy stuff, there's no time for that.
Make love, make memories,
Right.
you know, and that's what it's about.
And also, could you repeat all of your information in case a school wants to invite you to speak or a support group wants you to come? A church? Other anti-hazing associations?
Our website is www.ahamovement.org. That's AHAMOVEMENT.org. My email address is Debbie, DEBBIEMM, for Matt's mom, at ahamovement.org. And my telephone number is 209-470-7116.
And I saw on Twitter you had a page called We Miss You Matt. Is that still active?
WeMissYouMatt.com is active. That was our very first website, and it's connected to our AHA movement, but it's its own website as well.
I see.
That has Matt's story and all that in there.
Stay connected with your past and your past loved ones, even when they're gone. Am I right?
Yes.
True.
Critical.
Yes.
Critical.
Yep. Huge key.
Yeah. We appreciate the heck out of you guys. And we're just about out of time here in a little bit. And I want to ask you one other thing. When you go out in the public, how do you feel about yourself? Especially when you're speaking to all these moms. And there's a lot of women that go places and men don't go.
Right. You're correct. Most of the time they are mothers that are there.
Most of the time.
And of course that, for me, there's where my compassion is, because I'm a mother, so I know exactly what they're feeling. Because, you know, as a mother, I mean, you had that baby, well, you know, I mean, you carried that baby, protected that baby even before that baby came into the world.
Right.
You know, so that attachment is different. And that loss, and I don't know because I'm not a father, but I feel like that loss is different. I feel good. I'm always anxious and nervous, and you know, I just want to say the right words. I don't want anybody to get offended. I want people to you know that I'm just there to. I just care so much about people, and I want them to be happy and to be safe, and so I feel really good when I go into a room and I get to speak with parents and hopefully open their eyes and give them something to think about and let them know that I'm there if they ever need me for any reason.
When I go out with her or by myself, I'm very proud of what she's accomplished, what our family's got through. And she says I'm not 6'2" anymore, but I feel like I'm 6'5". And I'm always tall and proud.
Well, you know, the one thing that I see in you is the fact that you're a real compassionate person, Ron. You guys match each other very well. And you don't see that every day. Very good point. You know, and I want to say I thank you for coming. We're going to take some pictures here. Madam, you got anything else to say?
Well, as always, check us out at thoughtsofacommonman.net. There we have video, there we have podcast. You can check out upcoming shows and guests, and we just encourage you to get on there and catch up on shows you may have missed. Or maybe you just heard a part of this broadcast and you want to hear the whole thing later. And I think on that note,
And they don't let me sing either.
no, we don't want you to sing.
Dang it.
We don't let Greg sing either.
Yeah, I don't get to sing, although I nail it in the shower.
We'll see everyone next week.
Amen on that one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Right,
for having us.
thank you, Greg.